Hey there, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that feels incredibly familiar, maybe even simple on the surface. But hold on, it holds surprising depth and, well, incredible influence. We're talking about Pac-Man.
Pac-Man, that little yellow circle. You handed us a stack of sources on this absolute icon, and we've spent some time really digging in to unpack what made this game not just popular, but a genuine global phenomenon that fundamentally changed the world of gaming and maybe even beyond.
Absolutely. So our mission in this deep dive is to extract the most important insights, maybe some truly surprising facts, and get past that image we all know, to really understand the true, deep impact of Pac-Man.
Yeah, get ready. We're going to discover how a game reportedly born from, a single slice of pizza ended up doing everything from causing a national coin shortage, seriously, to totally revolutionizing how we think about game design, character, and even early AI.
Okay, let's dive in. Where do we even start with this one? You've got to go back, to the beginning. Your sources take us to Japan, 1979.
Exactly. The creator was this young designer, Toru Iwatani. He was only, 24 at the time, working at Namco. And he had this pretty unique idea bubbling up.
And that origin story, it's legendary now, isn't it? The one about the pizza slice.
Oh, yeah, totally. The story goes that Iwatani was out for pizza, right? He takes the first slice, and he looks at what's left, that shape, kind of like a circle with a slice missing and open mouth. And that just sparked the whole visual idea for the character.
It's a perfect visual for something that just eats. But his goal, based on what we read, that was pretty revolutionary for the time.
Absolutely. He specifically wanted to create a game that was non-violent and accessible to everyone. If you think about arcades back then, it was mostly shooting games, Space Invaders, stuff like that. Fighting games were starting.
Right, aimed at a pretty specific crowd.
Exactly. Iwatani wanted something different, something that would genuinely appeal to women, kids, families, people who weren't necessarily the main players in arcades then.
Which is pretty groundbreaking, just on its own right. Thinking about widening the audience like that.
Yeah.
And the name fits that whole eating concept perfectly.
It really does. So Pac-Man comes directly from the Japanese onomatopoeia paku-paku. It basically just describes the sound of chewing, or, that motion of opening and closing your mouth to eat. Simple, direct, fits perfectly.
And the design itself is just brilliant in its simplicity. That bright yellow circle, the open mouth, the 4 distinct ghosts, the simple maze layout. It's so basic, but it's utterly iconic.
And that simplicity, that was absolutely key. It made the game incredibly easy to pick up. You see it, you instantly get it, eat the dots, avoid the ghosts, that super low barrier to entry, crucial for its huge appeal across all ages, all backgrounds.
So, okay, they launch it. Japan, May 1980. And what happens, it's not just popular. The sources describe it as a total unexpected explosion.
Explosion is definitely the right word. The popularity was just overwhelming, completely crossed age and gender lines, which was not the norm. Arcades couldn't believe it. People just wanted to play constantly.
Your sources mentioned some arcades actually stayed open 24 hours a day just to keep up.
Wow. And here's where it gets really wild. There's a statistic from your sources that it blew my mind.
I think I know the one you mean, the coins.
Yes, the coins. Over 7 billion 100 yen coins were reportedly used in Japan in the first year alone. Can you even wrap your head around that scale? One game was so popular it sucked up coins at a rate that apparently caused a minor national coin shortage. Imagine that today.
It's almost hard to fathom now, isn't it? That kind of direct economic ripple effect from a single arcade game. And then, of course, it arrived in America in 1981.
And bam, same story. Maybe even bigger. We learned it sold over 100,000 arcade cabinets here, just massive numbers. And the revenue figures, over $1 billion in its first year. Yeah, and just to put that into perspective for you, the original Star Wars movie, right? Huge cultural phenomenon itself. That made around, $775 million at the box office during that whole initial run. Pac-Man's arcade revenue just dwarfed it in that first year.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And it wasn't just the money, right? It became this huge cultural thing. Remember Pac-Man Fever?
Oh, absolutely. You couldn't escape it.
Oh.
That song, Pac-Man Fever, it hit number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Wild. And the merchandising just exploded. Cartoons, breakfast cereals, toys, snacks, clothes. That little yellow guy was suddenly everywhere. An absolute pop culture force.
And that detail about the arcade cabinets actually being stolen.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy, but true, according to the sources. They were so profitable, they literally became targets for theft. Store owners apparently had to start installing safes, actual safes, just to secure the sheer amount of cash these machines were pulling in every day. That tells you something about the draw.
It's just wild how much impact it had simply as, a cultural and financial powerhouse. But going through your sources, it's clear Pac-Man wasn't just a smash hit. It brought some truly revolutionary innovation to the design of games themselves.
Right, and this is where it gets really fascinating from like a technical or game design standpoint. One of the most groundbreaking things, the AI. The AI driving the 4 ghosts.
Yeah, they weren't just random blobs bouncing around. They felt different.
Totally different. The sources really highlight this. Each ghost had a distinct personality, a specific strategy, which was super cutting edge for 1980. You had Blinky, the red one. He's the straightforward chaser, always trying to get right behind you.
Okay.
Then Pinky, the pink one, tries to get ahead of you, to cut you off like a ambusher.
Sneaky.
Yeah. And Inky, the light blue one, he's the tricky one. His target position is calculated based on both where Pac-Man is and where Blinky is. So he's kind of working as a team, flanking you.
Wow.
And then there's Clyde, the orange one. Some sources called him Sue, but generally known as Clyde. He's sort of the random one. He'll chase you for a bit, but then he might just veer off toward his corner, especially if you get too close. Acts kind of scared sometimes.
So distinct character behaviors programmed into AI back in 1980, that feels, well, pretty foundational for gaming.
It absolutely was foundational. It made the game feel much more dynamic, more alive, more challenging than earlier games, where enemies just followed simple, repetitive paths. And what's interesting is that players started noticing these patterns. They started figuring out how each ghost behaved.
Right. Which, your sources point out, led to something really cool. The formation of these early gaming communities. People were sharing strategies, tips on how to beat the maze, how to manipulate the ghosts. It was basically a prototype for, the online gaming forums and strategy guides we see everywhere today.
Exactly. It fostered that shared knowledge, that sort of collective effort to understand and master the game beyond just chasing a high score. Another major innovation your sources pointed to was the arrival of Miss Pac-Man.
Ah, yes. One of the first really significant female protagonists in video games, right?
Precisely. And it wasn't just a palette swap. Mrs. Pac-Man had different mazes, slightly different gameplay. The sources suggest she was hugely important in opening up the market even further, proving female characters could lead major titles and really influencing how the industry thought about representation and who their audience could be.
That makes sense. And the merchandising we touched on earlier, your material indicates Pac-Man didn't just do merchandising. It pretty much wrote the playbook on how to do it successfully for video games.
Yeah.
Setting a template that, let's be honest, almost every major game franchise still follows today.
Totally agree. It showed the immense financial potential beyond the game itself, taking that character, that brand, and extending it into toys, food, apparel, everything. It was huge. And one more key thing, its impact on cross-platform development.
You mean moving games from the big arcade machines to home consoles?
Exactly. Pac-Man became this crucial early example, this template for how you could successfully translate an arcade hit to home systems like the Atari 2600. It wasn't always perfect. That Atari version had issues, but the idea of porting, of bringing that experience home, Pac-Man paved the way for countless others.
Okay, so let's bring it forward. It's over 40 years later now. What is Pac-Man's lasting legacy, according to these sources?
Well, it's clear its influence is just everywhere still. In pop culture, obviously. That simple, iconic shape, it's basically a universal symbol. You see it referenced constantly in emojis, memes, art, design.
Yeah, instantly recognizable. And that core design philosophy, that easy to play, easy to understand idea, your sources really highlight how that became a kind of gold standards in game design, something many successful games, especially maybe mobile games today, still strive for.
It really taught the industry the power of accessibility, of making something fun for everyone right away. We also learned about its continued use in computer science education, which is fascinating.
Right. Using the maze, the dots, the ghost behavior to teach core concepts like AI pathfinding, search algorithms, even basic game theory.
It's like a perfect, simple little sandbox for illustrating some pretty complex ideas.
Very cool. And, we can't forget that 2010 Google Doodle, right?
Oh, yeah. That was huge. Your sources mentioned it was so incredibly popular that Google actually had to make it a permanent playable feature somewhere on their site.
That's just a massive testament to its enduring appeal and how instantly recognizable it is. And speaking of recognition, we saw that Statistic Pac-Man apparently remains the most recognized video game character globally. Something like over 90% recognition in many countries.
That level of cross-generational, cross-cultural recognition is just It's staggering, really. And they're
Yeah.
still putting out new Pac-Man games, like Pac-Man 99 on the Nintendo Switch a few years back, a battle royale Pac-Man.
Yeah, proof that the core gameplay loop is just so robust, so adaptable, that it can still resonate with modern players in new formats. Okay, so let's try and quickly distill the key takeaways we pulled from all the sources you shared today. What are the big ones?
Okay, first, that initial, maybe pizza-inspired, simple idea, it led to unparalleled accessibility in gaming. Opened the doors wide.
Right. Second, it generated this just unprecedented cultural and social phenomenon. It brought totally diverse groups of players together in arcades,
Yeah.
sparked those very early forms of gaming communities.
Third, technically, it introduced some really significant innovations for its time, that surprisingly sophisticated early Ghost AI, pioneering female representation with Mrs. Pac-Man, and basically establishing the entire model for successful video game merchandising.
And fourth, it built this incredible legacy that continues to echo today. It impacts pop culture, it still influences game design principles, and it's even used as a teaching tool in technology.
Yeah, your sources really hammer home that core idea. Sometimes, maybe often, the simplest ideas are the ones that turn out to be the most powerful, the most revolutionary, and have the longest reach.
So that pretty much wraps up our deep dive into the world of Pac-Man, tracking its journey from, well, a simple arcade game to a genuine cultural and technological landmark, all based on the sources you provided us.
It's really fascinating when you look back, isn't it, to see how a game designed primarily for simplicity, for just pure fun, could embed such foundational concepts, from those early AI principles to community building, market expansion, that core design accessibility, things that are still incredibly relevant and influential across the industry today.
Understanding its journey really helps us appreciate that unique blend, doesn't it? That mix of creative vision, a real focus on the audience, and that underlying technical cleverness, how that can truly change a field.
So here's maybe something to think about, something to leave you with. Consider this. If a game born from, a simple geometric shape and a universal love for eating could lay the groundwork for complex AI behaviors we still study, foster global cultural symbols, and influence how games are designed decades later, what other seemingly simple ideas around you right now, in your own world, might hold that same kind of potential for profound, maybe even world-changing impact?
Definitely something to chew on. That's all for this deep dive.